Hi, I'm Robin Fenner with Maxwell's Playbook, and I'm here with my husband Rudy, and we're here to bring you another episode of the Fitness Roadmap. We're having a lot of fun with this, and we hope you are too. Today, we are talking a little bit about fitness challenges, and we've talked about it in the past in terms of time and all those things that you have to consider when you are planning your fitness
Yeah.
routine and what it's going to be. But different things come up along the way, and other ideas come to mind as we go through this. And so we thought we'd bring it back today and talk about some fitness challenges in other areas. So, for example, last week I did something to my toe, like my big toe, and I don't know what I did. All I know is I could barely walk on it. And even like lying down, if I was in sleep at night or whatever, it just annoyed me to have it against the bed, which was really weird. And I didn't remember stubbing it or anything else. But somehow I figured out that I had done it on the bike because I a day or two later I was fine. It was getting back. It was about 85% or so during the day, and in the morning I would be a little stiff. But I said, let me just try the bike. Let me just try the bike today. So I tried to put my foot in the shoe, and it just didn't work. And I could tell, okay, I felt that was where it was. That's where the pain point was. And I said, okay, so there's something here. I strained it or something, and that I cannot use the bike. And that's kind of where I stopped with that. So that made, when I was telling him about it, it made us think about the things that could come up as you're trying to work out that can throw you off your game and become a challenge to work with.
Yeah. Sports fans, I need to bring you in for just a second. This is so incredibly fantastic.
Always about sports fans.
If you paid any attention to the Super Bowl, you know that Patrick Mahomes was not the Patrick Mahomes that we know and love, primarily because of a toe issue. Who knew that the mind and the face behind Maxwell's Playbook Fitness Roadmap would share an injury and share a concern with NFL's great Patrick Mahomes?
Yes.
But that is
Well,
so
I
real.
see you, Patrick.
That is so real because we don't really understand the value of pieces and parts until one is not working correctly. Nobody could ever convince you at 19 years old how important a toe is until that bad boy goes wrong. Yeah, so Robin had the issue with her toe, and a lot of it was fascinating because it was like a lot of our issues. So many injuries are mysteries. We don't know what happened. We don't know where everything went wrong. All we know is that thing is hurting.
Yeah, because I didn't remember feeling any kind
Yeah.
of sprain. I hadn't stubbed it. It was just like all of a sudden.
And we
oh,
kind of
your toe
launched
hurts.
our own
What was that?
investigation trying to figure it out, but we couldn't figure out because we couldn't really find a trigger. We couldn't find a cause. We couldn't find anything. And until you started beginning to try and repeat or go back to some of the things that you normally do, that's when you started figuring out, oh, wait a minute. Okay, that's painful. That's painful. And that, brought us to the point where it really is a crazy topic when you think about. First of all, I love this whole concept of fitness challenges because there are so many. And the one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to do an injustice to a topic, but we'll drive you nuts if we drill down to everything to an exhaustive degree. So to talk about fitness injuries as a part of fitness challenges is absolutely, I love this idea and concept.
And you know what? The other thing, too, is that everybody's going to have something.
Ooh, it's coming.
You know, it's always going to be something. It's going to be
Yeah.
time, or it's going to
Yeah.
be access, or it's going to be something that doesn't feel good, or something that hits you suddenly. So what we want to do is make sure you all know everybody has them, and that there's a way to kind of move through them, get past them, and keep on going.
Yes, so let's knock a few things out. First of all, if you're 19 years old, I am not talking to you because the way your body works at 19, your recovery is different. Your threshold for pain is different in terms of some things. Some of y'all just realize that you have a backbone, a spine, and so
Some
you're
people
fresh.
can
And
have-
I know.
Some people can have a
She's
disability.
going
or
she's going to
something.
try to calm me down,
So-
and back me down from that comment. But
Yeah.
I know when I was in my early 20s, I was doing squats with 405 pounds. I was doing all kinds of deadlifts and all sorts of things. I just never really worried about injury because the injury was highly unlikely because I was always functioning at a higher heart rate level. I was warmed up almost all the time.
But truth be told, you probably weren't thinking about being injured.
Not
you were
at
just
all.
doing what you
Last thing on my
wanted to
mind.
do. So you weren't even thinking about
as
that.
As
Yeah.
I aged, then a lot of the wear and tear caught up and more preparation was required, which brings us to the topic today. So here's I mean, I didn't do extensive research for it because there's so much out there from my personal experiences, but I do want to read this one statement that was sort of stunning to me. And this goes all the way back to 2012, so this is outdated information, but it was still something I could get my arms wrapped around and communicate the concept. It says it is estimated that 459,978 people were injured while exercising or using exercise equipment in 2012. Exercise equipment causes injuries to approximately 16,500 children between 5 years old and 14 years old annually. So that all completely debunks my comment about the 19-year-olds and no injury. So I apologize. I kind of lost my mind there. Now maybe just an old man getting angry.
You were excited.
Yeah. But anyway, so those are statistics that are obsolete because in 2021, I'm sure all of those numbers are far greater. The impact is far greater. And I went on a little bit further in researching this, and as opposed to the way a lot of us do, I won't say you all, a lot of us do, I don't look at the medical sites just to find out if I have a tumor or if I'm going to die tomorrow. It's actually a lot of health and fitness information out there. And WebMD had a great number of pieces out there that talked about fitness and sports. And it really did a good job that helped me sort of get my arms wrapped around when I was talking to Robin about this. Sort of three categories: chronic injuries, preventing injuries, and recovering from injuries. And when I say recovering, I'm talking about breaks, strains, surgeries, the things that we're coming back from that have caused trauma, some measurable trauma to our bodies that now we're trying to get back into our groove with. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
So we're starting with chronic, right?
Starting with chronic injuries.
Okay, so tell us about those.
And so with chronic injuries, I actually, it's funny. You say, tell us about those. I'll toss it back to you. Tell me about your knees.
Oh.
Chronic.
Well, it's a chronic condition.
Yeah.
I don't know if I call it an injury. I think of an injury as being something that happens to you kind of suddenly or whatever, or I guess it could be some over time, but I don't know. I think of that as a condition as opposed to an injury.
And I think that is a fair, completely accurate concept. But to the person who has the knee issue, the bottom line is whether you heard it in action or you heard it in silence and in still, it's something that is going to impact your fitness. It's going to impact your training.
It could be chronic, but maybe not an injury. So maybe it is a factor of aging.
Perhaps.
Maybe it could be some arthritis in there. I mean, there are different things it could be. But anyway,
so with chronic injury, so for a lot of people, I think the thing that we care most about is this. We do this podcast because we are incredibly blessed with the ability to run, to jump, to play, to do all sorts of things. I do, because at 62 years old, I'm incredibly blessed to do that. And we do the podcast because our real sincere, our core belief is that everybody can do this. We're not exceptions. We're not what I would even call gifted. We're just people who are convinced that God has equipped us to do this, and so we move forward with it. And that's what we're trying to communicate to people. For a lot of people that we're talking to, and we're trying to communicate that idea, there is some condition. There is a knee. There's an ankle. There is a something that is preventing them, at least belief-wise, preventing them from moving forward with that plan. So with all of these issues, with a chronic condition, I think the first thing to do is to try to get an assessment from a medical professional about where you are. Mm-hmm. Now, that's fascinating because I want to tell you something. I did a lot of work trying to get Robin's knees assessed. And we found a lot of doctors who just scratched their heads. They could not tell us, here's what's wrong and here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I experienced probably, I would say, a measurable amount of frustration with that because I'm not paying you. I mean, and I don't mean doctors. I'm not trying to be mean, okay? And I'm not trying to be harsh. But when I'm going to a medical professional, I'm first believing that this is somebody who has forgotten more than I know on this topic. When I walk into their space, I expect them to assess, evaluate, and give me a plan for recovery. That's just period. I don't, and if I'm wrong, y'all can feel free to write me and send me notes and tell me, but that's my feeling. So when I would leave a doctor, and it happened at least twice, that we'd go into because you had some discomfort in your knees, and they just looked at you and said, oh, I kind of like, that was frustrating to me.
Well, I actually had, x-rays and that kind of stuff, but
Right, but at the end of it, they didn't answer what the problem was.
They couldn't tell what it was.
That's right.
So,
And so with
yeah.
those things, I would say seek a medical professional and some guidance and direction. But I'm going to say that in all cases, you will not always find answers. And so,
I will say one thing though, just to put this out there too, and that is, I think knee issues, mine could be somewhat hereditary, because I remember my dad and my grandmother both had knee issues. Now it could be the same thing. Maybe it is arthritis, but just having seen that through the years,
yeah.
I just kind of say, well, it's probably hereditary, and yeah.
So I think what happened, what I would prescribe to people is what we actually did. I would love to tell you that it was a plan. It wasn't a plan. It was almost like a reaction to that. Out of frustration, I think common sense and logic just said to me, okay, what can she do? What can she do that doesn't hurt? And that's kind of what we did. We looked at and evaluated what range of motion do you have? What if you can't go side to side, can you go forward and back? Can you go up and down? What motion does not result in pain?
Well, that's why I started with the bike, because that's
Yes.
often what is used in physical therapy. And so, there's not as much strain on your knees.
Yes.
You can ride the bike without that and still get that workout for your body.
Yeah.
without hurting your knees.
And I do think, and I say this with all chronic injuries, if you've experienced pain, it is a normal human reality to do everything consciously and subconsciously to not experience that pain again.
Oh, yeah.
The problem with pro athletes, using that as a example, and a knee injury occurs, the athlete will recover physically, but not mentally. In many cases, the mental recovery is far greater and far more challenging than the physical. To hear a body part snap, to feel the pain from something that has separated, detached, torn, strained, it sometimes is a place that people mentally never overcome again. And we as normal day-to-day folks who are not paid to do it, we have the same issues. And so it is a matter of understanding what those physical barriers are, but understanding too that you have some mental barriers that you have to work with. And you might have to, on a lightweight level, try things that I know with you, we tried things we didn't, and actually, no, we did not. I think what we did was we put you on the bike. You rode on the bike. No, we put you, the
recumbent bike.
Recumbent bikes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
So we got on the recumbent bikes. And you worked a little, blah, 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 blah. You pushed a little, blah, 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 blah. No sweat. I mean, it's not sweating. You're not breaking a sweat.
But you're moving.
But you're moving.
Right.
And I think what happened with each measure of work that was completed successfully, you had the gumption, the nerve, to try to go to another level.
Exactly. Yeah, I tried something else.
But
yeah,
we never lost touch with, if it feels like this, then we stop.
right.
And so it was a safe, it wasn't like, I mean, the no pain, no gain. Whoever said that, that was a person who was not on the receiving end of the pain. That was a person that was selling a product, or someone who, in their own recovery, perhaps just got lucky. No pain, no gain is delusional. And most things, if you have pain and you continue to work through them, will get worse. So that's not what I'm saying. But you did find ways to gradually increase the load to your knees until what happened was, as you did more, your confidence grew.
That is true.
Because you came into the
Yeah.
bike class, and first you rode on the bike. And when we stood up on the bike, you said, "Oh, isn't that cute?"
Actually, I
you
found
kids-
standing easier than
Right, but it
sitting
took you a
at
while to
times.
even
Yeah.
try it. And when
Yeah.
you did try it, you
Yeah.
did find out, oh, wait a minute. Oh,
Yeah.
this is where they're getting rest. They're up here. Hey, wait a second. So
Yeah.
it did allow you to work harder and work different. But I think back to, and again, I think to sort of wrap on the chronic, the biggest thing is understanding that you need medical people involved. If you can't get a medical person, you are capable and able to assess your capabilities. You work those capabilities. As you begin to exceed those capabilities, you're able to take on greater loads, and you're able to take on more work, and you can move yourself into a place of working. And it might actually result in you working around that problem area, but you can still get work in. A bad knee is no reason to not be in shape, because let's find work that doesn't use the knee. A bad elbow is not an excuse to not get in shape, because the last time I saw somebody running, they weren't using the elbows. So it's a matter of taking that area that's a problem, assessing where you are, understanding where your limitations are, working around those limitations, and growing your level of fitness through that. It's doable. And that's what we're really trying to say.
Hopefully, you will have someone who can help you, a medical professional, who can help you identify it, though.
That's the hope. Absolutely.
But sometimes, if you have something that's chronic, like, say, arthritis, for example, you might take medication for it. But, it's something that you learn to live with to some degree, I suppose.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Anyway, okay.
All right. So next category was preventing injuries.
Right.
All right. So I will say this I think maybe after 50, I don't have a chronic knee issue, but I am on the verge frequently of something going south. Something goes sideways. Really, it's not hard, and it is if I fail in my ability to assess where I am, it will give me that. So we go back to some fundamental things. Preventing injuries really comes down to, I think, your warm up, your cool down, understanding and assessing load.
When you say load, you mean weight?
How much weight you're picking up, how fast you're trying to run, how far you're trying to run.
Right.
All of those factors come in. But a big factor in this too comes down to nutrition. And the reason I say nutrition is this. Some of us, I'll stop saying you all because I'm in every category that I call out. Some of us haven't seen a water bottle in years. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
There are some of us that we've lived off of Pepsi and Coke and Sprite, and we don't understand why we can't get rid of belly fat, and we can't understand why we can't bring our sugar levels down, and that's why. So we have to find a way, and even if you have to gradually walk up on it, sometimes there's some things that we do good, you got to kind of sneak up on it. You can't just do good right out of the gate. So you might have to move to nutritional drinks, which I would encourage people to don't take that out of the loop. Keep those in. Water by itself, you can drink too much water. I'm not going to dive into that, but there are conditions that can result from too much water.
I think it kind of depends also on what kind of work you're doing. For the average person, I mean, it's...
Right. Well, for the average person, there is an electrolyte requirement. Mm-hmm. And you can still introduce yourself to a phase and a season of cramping if your electrolyte levels get too low. You're right. It depends on what you're doing. And as you begin to work out, the electrolyte requirements are greater because you're sweating and you're losing things faster because your body is extracting them and that's coming out during the workout. So that does have an impact. So I don't mean to write that off at all. That's a very valid comment.
Okay, but let me just go back to the other Super Bowl quarterback, Tom Brady. So if you heard about what his routine is for how he is able to stay in shape and do all the things he does at age 43, one of the things I heard is that he drinks like 200 ounces of water a day. I'd float away. So because of what he's doing, and the kind of workout that he's doing, you can't hear that and say, "Oh man, I gotta do 200 ounces of water a day." Right. You're not doing what Tom Brady does otherwise. Yeah. So don't try to do that. But you can find out.
And we talk about that too. And everything that we say, I mean, I'm not trying to complicate it, but it's just the truth. And everything that we say, we really want to emphasize: do not use a broad brush. What works for one person is not guaranteed to work for you. There are people that have had all sorts of issues with cramping. I referenced that. And right now, I was in a grocery store the other day, and I saw it with the nutritional drinks. They are selling now small bottles of pickle juice because pickle juice is off the top electrolytes. And the sodium in that, it has been known. As a matter of fact, the Philadelphia Eagles one season had problems with cramping, and they bought just gallons of pickle juice in and knocked it out. It killed it. It stopped.
Wow, I was going to ask though about a sodium because it does have a high sodium content.
Right, and that's what knocked it out. And the things that they were doing, whatever conditions the team was subjected to, heat, whatever, work, whatever. A lot of guys were cramping. They introduced the pickle juice, and the cramping stopped. And they when they went to South home teams to play, they always just started knocking that out a day before the game,
You mean
and they didn't have
places in the
cramping.
south of the country,
Right,
southern areas of the
right.
country? Okay,
Florida.
okay, yeah.
A team from the
Because
north goes to Florida to play.
Right.
Immediately,
Weather
the heat
conditions.
throws everybody
Yeah,
off, and
yeah.
they're sweating. And if you're not prepared for it, cramping is inevitable. So,
But you got to watch that too. Like always check, because for most of us, you do a high sodium content, it can affect your blood pressure.
correct,
So you
correct.
want to make sure
so yeah,
that
so it's very
you
specific.
know what you can do.
It's very specific for that. I was saying that nutrition was a big part of it, but here's what we do to prevent injuries. I found that I'm gifted in terms of being in pretty good shape for my age. My mile time is maybe a minute or two faster than my age category, and my distances are pretty good for somebody my age. The people that are better than me are really, really exceptional. So I'm gifted, but I found that I have a much better 5K run, a much better 5-mile run if I've warmed up properly. And for me, that has not worked, because mentally I've just struggled with understanding that's what I need to do.
The warm up.
The warm up. I just struggle with it. I just
jump in.
right. I'm just the ever ready battery. I just walk in, boom, and I'm ready to go. And my body's like, no. We're not there. So if I was going to run a 5K and try to set a personal record for my 5K, the way I would prevent injury, first, the day before, I would be cognizant, pay attention to my diet. Am I getting the carbohydrates, the fuel base that I need, the electrolytes that I need to fuel this energy charge run and really push without injury? I would make sure that I got sleep. One of my biggest fails in life is sleep. I think I've said on a previous broadcast, I hate sleep. And it weirds everybody out. I weird sleep. I am some of you all are old enough to know what a matchbook is. I'm a matchbook cover kid for sleep when you die. I'm not feeling it. So I don't rest well. Yeah. I can function like everybody else, usually beyond most people, without rest. But if I'm going to push, I got to make it a point that day before to get a good night's sleep. And my point for normal people is to sleep. Get a good night rest. So I got my carbs right. I got my electrolytes right. I got my rest right. The day of the race, can't just pull up and jump out of the car and start running. It's a good thing. And I had some things listed. What is it? Some warm-up. Riding on an exercise bike, jumping a rope, jogging in place 5 to 10 minutes. Whatever it takes to elevate my heart rate.
Also, you can do some great stretches.
Yes.
Now, I will say I have a book about stretching, and I know that when I come down and I just start with some great, just some really good stretches, it's almost like Good Morning World. And when I finish that, I feel like my heart rate probably hasn't been elevated as much as yours if you're jumping rope. Mm-hmm. Jumping rope is a workout. You call it a warm-up.
It's a warm-up.
Anyway, but when I do that, I feel like, yeah, I'm ready to go. It doesn't have to take that long, but it feels really good. It just feels good. And
now,
it gives you a different mindset.
For some of you all, when you hear her say stretching, you went to all sorts of places, because there's explosive stretching, there's static stretching, there's PNF stretching, neuromuscular facilitation and all that. So there's a lot of variations of it. There's discussion about stretching before or stretching after, cold stretching, warm stretching. So all those things come into play, and you have to be mindful of what we said at the beginning. It depends on you.
Yeah.
For some people, you cannot just go into stretches without some warm up to warm your body up before you stretch. You got to learn how your body works. What's your code? What's your process? But those are all things. The point is to get the ligaments and the tendons warmed up, get your heart rate elevated, get your body to a place where it's ready to move, and now create the force and the energy that you need to produce the result that you want.
Yeah, because if I come down here on a day when I am going to be strength training and I don't warm up, mm-hmm. that's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. So I've got to warm up somehow, even if it is 10, 15 minutes on the bike beforehand or whatever else, jumping.
And just real quick on the backside, the preventing injury, there's got to be some form of recovery. We talked about this before: the rollers, the heavy massage guns, the the oils, the lotions, the this, that. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
Wait a minute, what oils?
I'm thinking about things like Isoflex. When I say oils,
There's something I'm missing. Is
oils
there a
and lotions.
massage bed that's not here?
Oh boy. Yeah, and even that, because we had a time with Robin. We were working out once on a vacation, and she got a massage, and they did some trickery with her knee, bent it way too far. It popped, and her knee was never as good as it was after that pop.
Well, don't say it really. It did feel like a pop, but not a pop that injured you. They just pulled it back. I told them it beforehand. Yeah, that's right. Make sure if you're doing something like massage, or when somebody asks you about how what kind of injuries you have, just be open and truthful so they can work around it. Yep. When I told them about that, she did something and she pulled my leg back, and I was like, okay, that's it. But then after she did it, it was like, oh my gosh, I can walk back to the boat.
It was game change.
I couldn't believe it, but it was awesome. So now I try to get you to do that periodically.
And so yeah. I don't have her technique, but I mean yes. So all of those things, the salt water floating, the stretch zone. There's actually some places locally. I mean, I'm hoping after COVID to really investigate more and maybe invest some time and go to those places where they stretch you out. There's a lot of post work that can be done to help recovery complete and be almost at a point next workout where you are ready to go and you are in better shape than you were in before the workout because you've recovered so effectively. Okay. So that's the recovery. That's the preventing injuries.
Yeah, right. Now
the last place, and I think we want to invest the time that we have left in a good chunk of time is recovering from injuries. And when I'm saying recovering from injuries, I'm talking about breaks, strains, surgeries, coming back. Because the comeback is the big deal. Most of us will spend a part of our lives coming back from stuff. It's just a reality of life is coming back. And how to come back is how we come back is fascinating. So we talked about your knee, and that was basically talking about not a comeback of sorts, but a launch from a injury position. So your position, you came into the game nicked, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you started. So it was a matter of can we do things to strengthen it? And we have found over time that strengthening the muscle around your knees are better. And you do work better than you worked before. And you would have never dreamt of the loads and the capacity that you're able to handle now in terms of your knees.
And I would confess just one small thing, and that is I found I can I won't say run, but I would kind of jog more on the treadmill.
I say run.
So I know, you'll say that, and you always said I would, but
yeah.
But I did start. I think I mentioned in another episode the knees over toes guy. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing some of the exercises that he has that I think have probably helped to strengthen the area around my knees. So I can do that. I was like, whoa. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm not going to. This is not about me, but that goes to the mental side of what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. It is one thing to be able to physically do something. It is another thing altogether to be able to mentally process that you can and actually try it. And we've said in a few episodes, you have to surround yourself with people, husbands, wives, friends,
family.
daughters. You've got to have people around you that are going to encourage you on this path. They have got to encourage you, not just like, oh, you can do it, just a goofy, but you can do it. I'm here with you. We'll figure it out. Let's try it. Tell me what you feel. Okay, let's pull it back to this. What was that like? And just really working with you and investing time in you. We got to have people in our lives like that. You have to.
Yeah. And now I'm just got into this Facebook accountability group with some friends, and she recently had I guess a surgery on her knee, and so she's coming back from that. And so many people in our age group are going through, knee replacements and other issues, and they're having knee surgeries. And but it's really cool. You wake up in the morning, and I get the little square on the page. What are you going to do today? And all sorts of affirmations, and then you've got people kind of encouraging each other on this journey. Yeah. So you can find, if you don't have someone who's physically near you, you can still find places like that. If you're interested in that one, let me know, and
And I'm gonna call us out individually. Everybody listening to this has the ability to encourage.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Mr. America to encourage somebody else in their workout. Stop hating. If you're not doing anything but somebody around you is, you encourage them. That's what our job is. We're not just these casual observers in life, and we watching all the people that we love and care about do all these things. We're like, oh, yeah, you. No, that's not acceptable. Every time, when I see anybody on social media that's going through any surgery, I'm genuinely thinking about their recovery. My cousin post, I had this issue and we're doing this and doing that. I think my immediate, without even thinking about it, was I can't wait for you to post pictures after your 5-mile walk. Right? That's just where I go. I mean, I don't understand. I want everybody to win. I want you to win. So,
and that's what's good about this group too. Groups like this one,
yeah,
is you get the like praise and good job and all those kinds of good things.
Sidebar, which is why group exercise classes are so incredibly effective, because you end up creating this crazy community that is cheering each other on, and it's almost like all of y'all as kids probably at least once went to the bowling alley. And when you go to the bowling alley, if you do anything halfway right, people applaud you. And if you haven't been applauded in a while, it kind of freaks you out. And you don't want to because it's so corny, but you get a little excited. Yeah, and that's what those groups do.
Yeah, super
okay,
fun. Super fun.
So when we're talking about recovering.
And I would say one last thing about knee injuries before we move on, and that is, I know a lot of people are in physical therapy after their knee surgeries and that kind of stuff. So listen to what your therapist is saying and what your body is saying, and then you can listen to us. But make sure you get that professional.
Yeah, okay.
Trust a professional first.
Okay, so I'm gonna dovetail off of you into what we were talking about. So we're talking about recovery. Robin had an issue where she broke her finger. She broke her finger. She went to physical therapy. When she's in physical therapy, I want to go to a physical therapy session and I want to see what they're doing. I'm watching what they're doing. Now, she doesn't know. I'm watching everything they do, and I'm buying all that stuff they got. I'm buying it.
I knew because the Amazon boxes were
That's right.
up.
I'm buying the stuff. And so when she finishes therapy, and any of you all that have been through this or you've seen people do it, you know exactly what I mean. Physical therapy is not the end of the road. Physical therapy, that's like our ride to Florida. We just hit Georgia. We saw a palm tree. We can't stop and celebrate. We still got miles to go.
Because your insurance is going to stop paying for it
right,
at some point.
Right, because they stop paying. So you're no longer in physical therapy, but you want to continue the rehabilitation process. So what we did was every finger tool that they had, I made sure that she had it. Every splint that they had, I made sure that we had it. Everything that we needed that encouraged that hand to continue to grow, I looked at it, thought about it, bought it, and I still look at it and I still watch what she does. I don't need to ask her anything. I'm watching that hand. I'm watching how she grips the bar. I'm watching how she holds the handlebar on the bike. I'm watching everything. And so I know what's going on. I don't need to ask because I'm going to pay attention. And when you're around people that are going through that, break a little bit of yourself off. Don't pay attention to yourself for 15 minutes and pay attention to them. See what's going on with them and continue that rehab. And that's where we are when we talk about recovering from injuries, breaks, strains, and surgeries. The thing that you have to do is assess, where are you? At another phase in Robin's life, she had surgery. And when she had her surgery, the whole thing was to come back. So now she's flat laid out for 1 week.
No. He didn't tell it right. Let me tell a story.
Oh,
okay. Let me just say, 2 years ago, Super Bowl Sunday, a house full of people. And I had been kind of noshing during the day because we had been preparing food. And, I just didn't eat the way I normally ate. So I was feeling kind of like, I probably should have eaten breakfast like this and like that. But whatever. Okay, so we got all this food, we got all these people. And I think it was, I don't even know if I remember kickoff, but I know by halftime, I was laid out in the floor upstairs. Like, I thought I was going to die. I mean, that sounds like an exaggeration, but really I was like, make sure the kids know I love them.
Yeah.
And I thought I had never experienced so much pain. It was sudden pain. And I had never experienced anything like that before in my life. And I guess I didn't even think about whether it was an appendix or what. I just knew that I was in pain. And the one thing I didn't want to do was go to the hospital, because who wants to ever go to the hospital? But I'm like, make this go away. But I had to go to the hospital, and as it turned out, I had to have basically emergency surgery, and it was a whole week in the hospital. I'm thinking, okay, 3 or 4 days I'm out of here. It's like, it's time to go home. And the doctor's like, no, you'll probably be here for a week. And it turns out I had a bowel obstruction that it just happened, and that can just happen. Tissue gets wrapped around something, and there you go. Nothing,
Yeah, and in
moves
case
like
anybody doesn't understand. If you experience abdominal surgery like this, that is what we refer to in the fitness world as the core. Yeah. So they're going into your core and they're altering the core. It is tearing down, and it is incredible trauma. It's trauma to the inside, trauma to the outside. You are going to be grounded for a minute or two or a longer time. And that's where we come from. She's laid out for a week. And if you don't have, gosh, this is way too much, but I want to make sure you understand. If you're laid out for a long time, there's all sorts of bed sores and all sorts of things that happen as a result of just being laid out. And so your body is almost deteriorating beyond what the issue was. Everything is like falling asleep and going backwards. And so now we got to figure out how to come back.
Yes, I'm in the hospital for a week, and I get home. Well, when I leave, the doctor says, well, you probably got a 6-week recovery. I'm like, 6 weeks of, oh, no work. Hey. But that meant 6 weeks of no exercise and 6 weeks of eating differently from the way I could eat before. So I had to change what I was eating, my diet, for some time, and gradually kind of get back to the way I ate.
And so where were you? Let's assess physically. Yeah. Where were you when this happened? In fitness, in terms of fitness, you were doing the classes. You were working out. It's not like, and in fact, one of the things that we talked about was this continued to cement our theme. Life is coming. There's not an option for life coming. You need to be ready. We are convinced that on so many levels, first, had you not been in the condition that you were in and you weren't as physically active, you would not have recognized the issue, that something was way, way off. It's easy with these obstructions, and we've known, unfortunately, people who have passed away from them. It's easy to try to assess the pain yourself and delay access to medical professionals to really understand what's going on. Because you understood what was going on, it's like, whoa, no, this is way off. This is way wrong. Something is way off. But also you had the physical conditioning to deal with as much as you could to get to the hospital and in the hospital. Because I'll go back a step beyond when you got home. You were walking. How soon were you up and walking?
Oh, in the hospital, they make you walk like the next day.
Well, they didn't make you walk. They hoped you would.
Well, no, they wanted you to. That's part of your recovery.
They wanted you to, but unless you have,
rather than later.
Right.
Yeah. So I was walking in the hospital.
So we walked them halls, man. We were walking them halls.
The halls.
So that's actually where recovery started.
Right.
Recovery started with walking the halls, getting up and out of the bed yourself, being able to sit yourself up, and all of this. It seems like it's basic, but no, that's all therapy. That's the physical therapy. That's the recovery. Now, when we got back. When we get home, do you remember what we did in terms of your recovery?
Well, I still had to walk. That was still it. And it was kind of in, well, it was like I said, Super Bowl time. So it wasn't, but it was in my head. We had a mild winter that winter. Okay. And I remember thinking, he said I had to walk. He didn't say I had to stay in the house and walk. And I would go to the store. We would go to Target.
Oh, that's right. Wait, I forgot.
And I would lean over the cart.
Yeah, we'd use it like a walker.
Lean over. But it really was a walker.
It was a walker.
We would go to Target. We would go to Home Goods, wherever. I just wanted to go to get some fresh air and kind of get out of the house. And there was nothing saying you had to stay in the house the entire time.
That's right.
But and I would lean on the carts and walk the stores. So that was kind of cool way to get now. But so we did that, but I did my diet changed it and had to gradually kind of get back to.
Oh, that's right, because you
had to have a soft
diet, go right in and eat.
That's right. Like chicken noodle soup and eggs and whatever. No fresh greens, all the things that you eat that you think are healthy for you. I had to pull back on that because my system had to kind of get strong again, stronger enough for me to be able to digest it properly.
Do you remember any other things from your comeback, from your road back, fitness wise? How you did anything?
Well, I couldn't ride the bike. I couldn't work out. I mean, I could have lifted weights in maybe week 4, maybe, but I didn't really try it. I didn't want to go back. So I followed directions really well. But I remember really, really missing it because, like I said, if you do something for 30 days, you formed a habit, which is fantastic. But then you still got the habit. You can't do it. Then it's kind of like, I really missed it. So, but I would come downstairs and I would look at my bike and I rode the bike like it was a horse or something, and then And then one day I kind of got on the bike. I just sat there. I didn't try to ride it because I didn't want to go back, like I said. But I would just sit there and I would just say, okay, yeah, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. And that's all I needed. I just needed like 5 minutes just to know, just be back in that space.
Yeah.
And just to get, in my mind, no, yeah, I'm going to get back. And each day I felt better and better.
Yeah.
And, after 6 weeks, I was good to go. I was gentle about working my way back into it.
Right.
I didn't go super aggressively,
Right.
When I first did it. But
Yeah, see, and as we're telling yours, I'm reflecting and remembering my recovery from my hernia surgery. So I had like a triple hernia, and I had the surgery, and mine was the same thing. But I came and you all that know me know my strategy. The fact that I even had a strategy is hilarious. I'm almost coming out of recovery with a strategy.
he thought he had a strategy.
And yeah, I mean, you find the reality is when you try to
Yeah.
get up out of the bed and you find that no,
Yeah.
you can't. You need her help. You can't even get out of the bed. All of those things came into play. But I really, every day I would assess where I was. Where do I feel pain? And I would not go into pain, but I would find that edge, and that's what I would do. If it meant that I could stand up, I mean, I went from being able to not get up all the way, and so I would just do maybe a quarter of a stand and back of my seat, a quarter of a stand and back of my seat. The next day I was able to stand, so it was full. Then it was walking, and then because I was teaching, I was as an endocycle instructor at the time. And I probably had...
That's when we had the Eyes on You classes.
Right. It was at least 2 or 3 weeks where I created this Eyes on You program. Eyes on You was because I couldn't ride. I could not get up on a bike. Because I couldn't get up on the bike, I didn't want to cancel classes. So I went in classes and I had eyeballs on a stick. I made a popsicle stick with a picture of some eyeballs on it. And I would just move it around and look at people. And we called it Eyes on You. But what it really allowed me to do was spend a lot more time talking to people about pedal strokes and effort and really getting into everybody's head about what they were doing individually. So it was a great growth time for me as an instructor. But it also taught me so much about being patient with myself. Because I did have to work within my own limits. Shucks, even now, every now and then I'll do something. I'll use an ab roll or something, and I'll say, "Oh, that was weird." And I believe it's a little remnants from that surgery, but it's all a part of that recovery. So I think to sort of put a bow on this, the strains and the breaks and all of that is to assess if you break a leg. I've praise God, I've never broken a bone in my life. Which is fascinating with all the activity and all of the falls and everything I've experienced. But if I did, the first thing I would do upon recovery is like we did with your hand, where am I? Mm-hmm. What can I do? What can I do next? What's my target? I would create targets. I would create a roadmap, if you will, on where I want to be with a hope, a desire, a dream of being 110%. I'm hoping that I can make it stronger, make it better than it was before this issue. But I'm always trying to first start with where am I? What can I do? And the same thing we had with your toe the other day. Can we put pressure here? Can we do this? Okay, oh, don't do that because that hurt. Can we do this? Okay, oh, but you know what? We're doing this and this is fine. So you found, I think it was the treadmill or something that you were able to do with shoes that was painless, and so that just meant you just couldn't get on the bike because of the shoes and the pressure on your toe. Go to the treadmill and use the treadmill instead.
Yeah, exactly.
So we found out what the limits were. We assessed your limits. I had started ordering stuff for toes. I'd already ordered braces and I was ready to go.
I'm like, don't manifest that stuff. That's
Yeah.
not happening here. We don't need all
She
that.
stopped me,
We're gonna be
but I was
fine.
being ready because I didn't want any time to. I didn't want to waste any time if there was any issue beyond a strain, and I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was a strain in the same space as like pro athletes experience, especially football experience, turf toe, things like that. But it wasn't as severe. It was just a matter of, okay, shut it down, rest. And that goes back to, what is that? That old recipe, the rice recipe, recovery, ice, compression, elevation. It was basically what we did. We didn't use the ice part, but we just basically found if we just stabilized it, we could get it to just rest. And that rest allowed it to recover.
Yeah, a couple of days of that. Just kind of being careful about how I moved around. I was not sitting still, mind you, but
Yeah.
just careful about how I used it, what shoes I had on, and making sure I had shoes with better support on.
Yep.
During the day, which I sometimes don't.
And I
all day
think
long,
that's
but
the thing with almost any injury is assessing where we are, and then moving. Especially if you aspire to I mean, most of us, when we're training, we have a strength goal, we have a weight goal, we've got things that we have going on, so we don't want to stray too far because I don't want to restart that process again. So I'm hoping that made sense, some of the things that we talked about in terms of recovery and just how to do that.
No, I think it was absolutely great. And I think that what I hope you also see, so it really gets into the mechanics of how things are. But I think when I think about it, hopefully we're an example to you to say, life happens to all of us, as you always say. And we've been through things ourselves. And you're going to go through things. You may be going through things now, but you can move through. You can get past it. You can move on. You can get around it. And you can still do this for yourself. And I think that, you'll look back and you'll be telling your stories to someone else.
Right.
So,
and I mean, and you said that, and I thought about it, and I really do hope people, if you don't have a group, this is your new group.
Yes.
You hit us up and tell us
That's
where
it.
you are and what you need. If you are trying to come back from something, I had a friend, and this is one of these topics came up with a friend who had multiple strokes, and he was trying to figure out a way. I said, okay, let's start at the beginning. What can you do? Can you stand up?
Yeah.
He said, yeah. Can you walk? Yes. Then we got a plan. And we just go from, and there's a lot of write-ups out there from couch to marathon. There's all sorts of plans out there. The biggest thing is to get with the right group of people and get the right encouragement, and let's create that roadmap and decide how to move you from that point A to point B and get you going and get you on the road of recovery, working beyond the injury, working with the injury, working with the situation. There is nothing that is hopeless. There is no such thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess with that, we're going to kind of wind this up.
Yep.
I'm going to ask everyone, if you have questions, if you want to be with us in an accountability group, send us an email to robin@maxwellsplaybook.com. If you are listening or watching, you are probably seeing us on YouTube or listening to Spotify, Google, or the Apple Podcast. So please give us a little like and make sure you download. You can refer to this later. And you can share with other people. So we hope that you will do that. We want to get the word out. Again, this is our journey. We're not medical professionals, but we can tell you kind of how things have worked for us. And we're pretty happy with being able to do what we can do at this point. So thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Be blessed, be fit.